4th.
Right.
All right, so, I have the highway fund, I believe, on this elongated sheet.
Yeah, and my notice down. Okay, are we ready to get started?
Yeah. Okay, we'll start at, what time is it?
It is 1:11.
1:11, officially begun. This is our 4th budget meeting, budget of 2021. Hopefully it'll be our last.
So, on the highway, I know there was back and forth on the liquid fuel. My understanding is that the liquid fuel account is not, but you could set up a separate checking account in the highway fund to be able to capture highway expenses. But if, Lynn said that you want interest, then highway needs to be balanced on its own, and, we had $250,000 in the highway construction, but without transfers into the general fund, we didn't see the budget.
Right.
The second is where to pull it from, because road maintenance, I just arbitrarily said, okay, fine, let me pull 250 out, and then that the 53 goes as our overage bill from the, road maintenance amount. The balance amount, but, that's the question, how do you guys want to handle it?
Well, in the past, we were fairly consistent in having to augment that budget. And, we just thought what we would do was just take it out of the general fund.
Yeah, which we're gonna have to do, but we need to figure out what we're taking out of highway. The question I have is, background on the interview, on road maintenance. And, we have, if we annualize it, it's around 28,000. The average that we provided us was about 44,000. For 2021, we're looking to budget. And I'm not quite sure.
But that's like a really enlarged figure. Ed usually asks for something that large, but
Right.
that's like the in-house road maintenance, so it's not necessarily full paves, more like it's potholes and things like that. So it won't actually be that.
So, realistically, I mean, that's what we have, that's really additional. So I'm not sure why that number should be, that's because the remainder you could do project. And then we have to figure out, of the major projects, what's left over to put in.
The other thing we'll need to consider with highway funds, 430.741 and 437.374 cannot exceed 2,000. We'll probably need to consider shifting part or all of that 57,000 back into general funds, so we won't hit that on halfway.
So, okay, so the two accounts was 741 and what other one?
374.
Repairs, tools, and
Right, repairs and tools and machinery.
Yeah.
Major equipment.
Okay, you only have that at 35.
Right, and it can't go over 60.
So it looks like there's a major piece of equipment that must be purchased,
paper, I believe.
paver and trailer.
Well,
Well, paver and trailer is in the general fund. I'm not sure
right. So,
why we have it here as well, then.
is it here as well? Because as you said, that seems like a lot of money.
If you remember budgeting in the, for these items, so maybe we take that out of there.
Why did we put that in the general fund?
else?
Julie, on line item, 374, here, can you have any way of looking to see what that entailed?
I don't have QuickBooks, but that's definitely something Sharon can do for us.
Sharon, could you do that, please? Look at your QuickBook.
Works for me, I like that plan.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Item, 437, 374. It seems like it's consistent. I don't know what happened. $44,000.
I remember when we talked about it, so I don't know whether that's changed.
I think it was originally in the general fund at 430.75 capital purchases, but I believe we removed it to push it entirely into the highway fund.
Okay. So that's 30.79.
0.750, yeah.
Yeah, 750. Oh, I see. Okay, yep. To highway. All right, so how do we want to allocate that back? Do you want to allocate the capital purchase back to the general fund, and then we have more available for capital purchases and maintenance?
Or does that work for you?
Yeah.
And I'm not 100% sure I fully understand it, but.
I guess we flip-flopped back, because, you know, where was the money gonna come from? So now, nothing can be added to highway fund. We have to figure out what to take out of highway fund and put it back to the general.
And I guess, Lynn called, John Mazur, he's our, state liaison.
Yeah, and that's where this information comes from.
I know that we cannot fool around with liquid fuels, but we can, and we have, by mistake, put money into liquid fuels. The problem with that is you can never say, oh, I made a mistake, and you can't get it back. But we've always, augmented liquid fuels.
Well, that's why I'm saying, creating another account, a separate cash account, so only liquid fuels goes into cash, in that cash account, and only other excess highway funds go into another account. But my understanding was that you do not want to do that.
Yeah, but why not? I don't say, as long as you don't go near liquid fuels, okay, why couldn't we have, put money into a highway fund?
What John Mason said is that we're not allowed to transfer our general fund money into our highway account. He said that even though we've done it in the past, it's not allowed by PennDOT standards, which is why we're backtracking as we are now.
We're just creating a separate account for it.
That is one of the possibilities we
them.
can do. The other thing is just putting these numbers back into our general fund, and after our highway, after our liquid fuels money runs out, paying those expenses out of the general fund.
It just
Or for budgeting purposes.
doesn't make sense.
It seems another account will at least tell us what we're putting in total into roads, right?
I think it's a better way of identifying it personally, because, as we were going through the budget items, oh yeah, we only paid that in the fourth quarter because we ran out of highway money. It's kind of muddying the waters in the general fund as to how much is being pulled out for, highway purposes, but, we can do it however you.
Well, I think what we'd really like to see is a simple way of taking a look at it and saying, okay, Mr. and Mrs. Public, this is what we have, and this is the highway fund, this is our liquid fuels fund, we've expended it, there's a lot more work, so of your money, we're going to take, and create this, a line item, if you will, and that would, let us know and let the public know that this kind of money is being, applied to the highway fund.
No, but if you wanna open up another case.
Yeah, so that, you'd have to open another cash account for that, to be able to physically keep the cash separate.
Huh?
Just open up, you have to open up another bank account in liquid fuels. And you don't put the state money in. You use just to transfer your money and dig out.
So still like with Pliget, just, separate.
No, but liquid fuels doesn't apply across the board to everything. I mean, there's a lot of highway expenses that are common, everyday occurrences.
Right, we're just trying to show, do we wanna show the expenses coming out of the general, or do we wanna show one transfer into liquid and show all the expenses coming out of liquid?
If we do transfer into liquid fuels account, that's there, it's done forever, no matter what. We have
Brian, what they're talking about is having the state liquid fuels money, that would be the liquid fuels money that we get from PennDOT.
right.
And then having a second expense account that we can call Smithfield Township Road Maintenance Fund to keep them separate. And then
Yeah, but
we have a
not part of the liquid fuels funds.
Exactly, and then we have a transfer into this road maintenance account.
Well, that's
that
what
would then
okay.
show, feasibly both the liquid fuels and all of the other money that we're expensing.
Yep.
Am I correct in that?
I'm not quite sure, because when you said create another expense account, on the expense account would be one line item on the general fund, but in the highway, you literally physically need two bank accounts, two separate bank accounts, because they're saying, look, you shouldn't be putting money into liquid fuel.
Right, well,
The liquid fuels money will stay there, separate cash account for anything coming from the general fund, but then all expenditures would be done under the highway fund.
Will that give us any issues for auditing purposes?
I think actually it's clear for auditing purposes, personally.
For PennDOT auditing?
That you might wanna talk to, maybe Kirk, to make sure that that's not gonna cause any problems.
Or John Mazer.
The other thing too is you could even separate it out. It wouldn't be too hard to separate out what was paid from which cash account, if that's an issue. In other words, it'd still be under that fund, that separate company account. Whether we'd use classes or, we could call it LS for liquid fuels and GF for general funds, and then we could always print a P&L just exclusively for the money that was paid out of the liquid fuels account. But for the public purposes, we know everything that's being put into the roads and highway on that one QuickBooks account.
And will we have to create another account?
Another cash account, you'd have to go to a bank, open up another account, go through Pliget, whatever it is, but you have to have a separate account. I think that's why Lynn's not excited about that part of it, because then it's
Yeah, we
bank
did
accounts
go through condensing all of our bank accounts.
And Pliget is part of it.
Hesitant.
You did that with the old one, just pay expenses out of the general.
How does your other townships that you work with handle it?
I'm gonna find out tonight, but I think they do it, they come, out of the money. So I'm gonna try and find out.
And that's classically, historically, what we've done all these years. And then we're told, apparently, that.
Well,
No, we didn't.
no, what we've classically done is we've taken our general fund monies and transferred them into the liquid fuels account.
A lot of times we paid.
Right,
Yeah, it actually was a mixture, some like
Right.
general funds, but then.
Julia was,
transfers
okay.
Right.
It seems cleaner this way. If an item that says, okay, this is how much we're going to put towards roads, beyond what is in, the liquid fuels account. More
As an
transparent, I
accountant,
guess.
I value that, as a bookkeeper, having to balance it on the checkbook and ordering checks and things like that. It's just a clerical, it's clerically cumbersome, but for the government.
Essentially, if we're looking at wanting to see the larger picture, would it be worth it to just create another spreadsheet to look at all of our general fund expenses and all of our liquid fuels and combine them in a spreadsheet rather than creating a new account? And then we could stay general and liquid fuels, and just have a bit of a meta spreadsheet, so when it comes to what we're doing here, we have the opportunity to look at that spreadsheet say, hey, this is what we need for liquid fuels, this is where we have caps of percentages that we can spend, and then budget the rest of it as general fund. Option three.
Create a class in the general,
You could do that too.
create a class in the general liquid fuel.
Yeah.
Identify each expense.
And then you could also do that, because we're already doing that for Park and Rec. We're gonna move the funds into Park and Rec, or from Park and Rec over to general fund.
General
And track that by classes. So we could do that for the highway and say, okay, we're gonna expend it all out of general fund, but we're gonna, anything having to do with the highway,
We'll
we're gonna.
identify each expense as a liquid fuel expense that you can
Highway
get a report on.
Highway, because the liquid
Highway.
fuel expense is.
Highway. And then we don't need to open any account.
Sounds doable.
So it looks like, it sounds like we need to move that $57,000 over for that capital expenditure. Unless there's an advantage to having it in liquid fuel.
Now, you mentioned that in the general, general fund, in the budget, that we have a line item to purchase the paver and the trailer.
I thought we did, but that got moved out and put into highway, now we're moving it back,
Okay.
yeah. So we'll put that in, $57,000 in account 430.750. On the general fund, and we're gonna take it out of highway, and it's zero. And then the road maintenance, the average has been about 44 in the past. 50,000 gives some leeway to work on some other projects.
Okay, that, we're on the 001 road maintenance.
Yes.
And we-
Now, 163, make that 50,000, because the average has been around 44,000.
Yeah, so why did it come out that way?
I think there's projects that the roadmaster wants to do.
Well, I'll try that.
He has a wish list, you're right, and that's what, Jacob had, referred to. And we have to sit with the roadmaster, actually, because we've got to make some choices.
Well, the key is that how much do we allocate to this liquid fuels, because we can make up the rest in the general fund, but for now, we have to figure out the allocation.
So you mentioned the figure, what did you say?
I was saying 50,000 just to have it,
That sounds, yes,
close to what the prior average was.
yep.
50 sounds good. It's a reasonable bump too, so.
Yeah.
Was that the 439,001? Where you put that?
Yeah, 438,001. 438,001.
You're adding 50 to that.
So it's gonna be
Becoming
50.
not.
Oh, it's becoming.
Becoming 50,000, and that leaves, how much is it? That was our bottom one, it leaves 175.15 that we could use for the highway construction. He wants 250,000. Yeah, and to put the 170. 62 cents in there. Yeah, well, we had our balance, so, 15 comes 52. And that'll zero you out for the liquid fuels money.
That looks clean, yeah.
But now we have, we had, 216. So you have, on the general fund, it looks like now we have about 166,000 for road maintenance and 80,000 for highway, for construction and rebuild projects on the general fund.
Okay.
So that's where it gets a little bit confusing, because if you're looking at a total budget for the highway, the roadmaster, now you're splitting the budget items into two different funds, you know? So tracking what he's allowed to allocate to one fund to the other, I guess that might be one of the challenge areas.
Eventually it will be, one of the, we can spend our general fund money however we want, we just need attention on what percentages we spend for certain items for like fuel. So perhaps having that road maintenance in the general fund will make it easier for us, because we won't need to track those expenses and depend on after the yearly audit.
Right. Okay, so it sounds like now highway, but now we have to go back to general fund and see where we want to put those. We did put the 57,000 into 430.750. And then we can look at the other line items for road maintenance. General expense highway.
Township road maintenance is 438.245.
Yeah.
So that's about where we are.
And then, so those two items, you're right, those two items would have to flow over there, so we'd have to make that one that's now $1,000 into $166,000, 165.
Well, it comes to 166,740 that remains, and then if you add that extra 1,000 in, 8 preliminarily.
Okay, make it 115,000 even. And then the one below it would be 80,000.
Whatever it is. Using roads and bridges.
So then, you know, we're going to be over budget, but there's still some income items that we don't know. Such as the rent. The rent on the lower property, or the downstairs.
I think, actually, we have a pretty good idea of it now.
Okay.
And, it's going to, well, I didn't expect to address that here now, but, we negotiated a 10-year lease, and looks like it's going to go through with an increase of 10% for the first 2 years, and then, years 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 5%, and 8, 9, 5%, and 10, 7%. So whatever that comes out to is.
Well, what we really need to worry about is that in year one, is it 1 and 2, is it 10%? So what we need to look at is 2021.
Right.
Add 10% onto the 34,750.
Which is existing.
Right.
Yep.
So, and that'll at least give us a dollar amount.
So we're looking at about 38,197.
For years 1 and 2.
Right, for a 10%.
And 2021 is where we are.
Right.
So, 38,200. Okay.
We have $2.50.
We'll put 38,200 in there in the income side, that helps part of it. And then,
We're saying 38 too? Okay.
so,
We had nothing in this.
yes, that's correct.
Right.
So it's 38.2 now.
So I think on the income side, we do have that pretty much buckled down. And then there are a couple expense items that are still open. Right? Yeah, the earning, like, account 403-120, 403-450, those commission accounts, I just wasn't quite sure what to put in there. He got $13,000 at the end of last year for it. I don't recall exactly what it pertains to.
I need it. Earned income
I think that
tax.
was a problem, I don't know that we were clear exactly what that commission account was.
Right.
Is that the fee we pay to, Berkheimer?
Well, let me see here, earned income tax commission, yeah, that might be paid to Berkheimer. Like, that's reasonable. The local LST, that's a commission, and I'm not sure what that's based on.
I'm just confused because they're both budgeted at 0 last year.
We, 2019 had 2887.
See, we budgeted 0 last year,
Right.
but it does look like it is an expense to keep.
Do they pay it out or they withhold it?
I'm gonna, maybe that's part of it, maybe what we're getting is a net amount. I didn't see how it's up, I don't know. Was that a journal entry? So actually though, I'm just wondering if those are netted out of our our receipts, then I don't know that it's gonna have a net positive on the bottom line because, your earned income tax, you know, if that's the case, then we would up it by the amount of the commission and then record the expense for the commission. So it's gonna have a net 0 effect.
And, we would leave the earned income tax commission as it is. We wouldn't,
Well, I
adjust
would
that.
guess that what we have in there now on account 310.210, which is your earned income taxes current year, that's already probably assuming net the commission. That's the case. Yeah, it's a journal entry that the auditor makes. However, I'm just concerned not having it in as a budget item, you know, because then we have to go back and readdress it at the end of the year and it's a variance, you know. So if it was, does that make sense what I'm saying? If it was, you know, close to 14,000 and 2,700 last year, and we're estimating our earned income tax is gonna get down, you know, somewhat because of COVID overall, then maybe 10 and 2,
That sounds good.
10,000, 10,000 and 2,000. But then we have to increase our earned income and our LST by 10,000 and 2 above. Does that make sense?
you mean that, an income?
Yeah. Because what they're doing is they're sending you the net amount, it sounds like.
After the commission.
Right. So that would make that 760,000, and then the LST 152,000.
Wonder if we get that information, when they send the payment over, that it could be input.
Yeah, then it could be input correctly, so it might be on what we received, and Lynn's just not quite sure how to put it in.
Right, we'll have to look, make
Okay.
make a note on that.
Mm-hmm.
So 760, and what was the one for the,
150. I'm not sure what you, that's it, allocating the vote. You know, they net it out.
So Holly, in fact, at, AIT, we received $700,000. That's $700,000 in our general fund. Correct, that we don't get around, the commission is already been taken care of, so it would have been like
Yeah,
713,000 or,
what we budgeted was $750,000.
yep,
So that would be your estimated net money going in.
okay.
But now we're saying, okay, we really should account for the expense, so we're increasing the income and increasing the expense to the two net, to the same numbers we were just looking at.
Okay.
Makes
But
sense.
they're in the right buckets. Okay. Okay, so then the other thing then is the wages. Are there any changes to any of the wage items?
Yeah, but if we can circle back to those, I'm actually, calculating that out right now.
Okay, so that would be the other expense item that we needed to make sure we shore up.
Did we, when we, got to wages, especially with the road crew, do we just say a blanket 5% or something?
Yeah, didn't we go with something like $250 or something?
We did go with $250. I think all of their wages combined worked out to somewhere around $223,000. I remember I did the math, I don't know if I stored it. But that was not only to budget for any potential raises with the union negotiations, but also because of overtime expense.
Right.
Okay. That's probably a decent number then.
Yeah, and we'll have a better idea after the board goes through union negotiations and that we know what we're paying them.
Right.
From there, we can look at, excuse me, how many hours of overtime they've had in any given year and calculate a closer percentage for that.
Sure.
It's a guesstimate anyway.
Yes. If we have a good winter, if we have a bad winter, they'll change.
Huh.
As I'm seeing on the general fund, I would say that's our last set of numbers, because that number then in turn will change the payroll tax, and will come to our net over budget, and then that will be put up above to be pulled from reserve. And, last year's balance forward was $128,000. Yeah, $400,000 is coming up now, and I think because of those large, proposed expenditures for highways, really pushing that number up.
Well, and again, that's something we gotta look at. You're saying about $480,000 balance for it.
480.
That sets a record.
But the other side of it is that,
Triples it.
you're trying to be really conservative on what you think you're gonna get.
I'd still like to get that number down from
It's gotta come down, yeah. And you know what, when you look at it, and again, we're conservative on our income, but not so conservative on our expenses. So maybe there's a commonality allows us the ability to possibly say that this expense, even though we don't feel that it's going to be that much, something like that. Just put it in. $480,000 is going to break us.
No.
It's just, for one.
Yeah, that's kicking it down the road.
No, I'd like to get it closer to less than 200. I mean, I think we mostly shifted around numbers, but we could just shift, just cut the same numbers that we moved around.
And then one other observation, Sharon had a good question, was, on the, 492.040 for transfer to park funds.
492.
.040.
Right.
Transfers to park funds. kind of a placeholder, because ultimately, the park and rec is going to the general fund, and assuming that you want the same detail that's on the budget here is reflected in the general fund.
Right.
But that would be a placeholder for the total amount of expenditures you're thinking for the park and rec would be $59,550 based upon the budget this year.
Where's the other 8,000 coming from? 'Cause I know we have 51,850.
Oh, because if you look at the budget for the park and rec,
Yeah.
you see that the total balanced amount is $59,550, and that's why, that's all gonna be paid out of the general fund. It's not like park and rec is generating its own, or is that not correct?
Oh, no, it really isn't at the moment, no.
Oh, you know what, you do have some fees, facility use fees.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's minimal, it's.
Okay, so then actually $51,850 then, I'm sorry, probably would be the net out, and I apologize. Okay. So then, your concern is outside of Cheryl, which we have to look at in a minute, what other items can you actually reduce?
Well, yeah, or increase. Real estate, transfer taxes, I think we budgeted 180, is that correct? And we're going to, go for 215.
What account number is that?
We're at 310-100.
And it's through September 20th, it's 225. I think that, we just had another really good,
Well, we kind
figure.
of bumped up to 215,000, which
Right.
means the market is actually doing better.
And that's correct, and even in 2020, we're at 225,000, which would be,
At the moment, we're over 320,000, I think it is.
we just
With
got
the most
that
recent
windfall
number
we just
included.
got in. We had out of nowhere, a stale property that generated $40,000 in transfer tax, 40 grand. And, well, you know, you sit here and you think you know what's going on in your community. Came out of nowhere, $8 million.
Where was that?
We're thinking it's down there at that, storage facility on 209 Milford Road, where the...
Oh, right, Bob's or whatever it's called.
Yes, yeah. I think that's it, you know.
Yeah, it's that one by, Joel Street.
Bob's would be.
Well, I mean, the question is, that's an anomaly, and that was in 2020.
Yeah.
2021, we're going to
Yeah, I think 215 here is fine. I think we're just going to have to really look at, you know,
I'd like to increase that. Again, just what's gonna be going on. We missed this. We missed a $40,000 one. But we were aware of the other ones, the consolidated, and there's still things going on there. We still have purchases coming through on, by the diner and the two buildings, close to that.
If you're up around 320, you said, 250 maybe.
I would think that. I really do. I mean, if we're at 225 now, and this doesn't reflect that $40,000. The whole thing came to,
right, we're at like 320,000 for the year,
Yeah.
including that, yeah.
So that would put you at 280, assuming 2021 is going to be a
Two
good
fifty
year.
is,
Yeah,
I think
250 would be fair enough. All right. Again, the real estate taxes in the current year, we're at 379. I think that 400,000 could go up, as you said too. We're in a market now where a lot of things are turning over.
Yeah. So either way, it's going to get paid. My concern was that with COVID, people might not be paying their bills.
Oh, shit.
All right. quite a few refunds.
So the base has gone down.
I would think so. We haven't gotten the interim numbers or what they think our base is yet. I think it's supposed to come this month, right?
So be careful with the real estate.
Yeah, I think 400, even as we have it, is probably the most reasonable number. I don't. The 459 number that's there for this year is not even based in reality, you know. Because when you looked at our tax base and used the millage rate, you only got 424 anyway. So we're kind of lucky we hit 395 at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, the only one that looks like you might be, you know, you were being conservative on is the earned income tax, but people truly were out of work. And we do know it was documented already for 2020.
Right.
But, you know, is 2021 gonna get any better? I mean,
I'm
we're
sure.
better off leaving it where we had it.
Yeah, I'm sure it will get better, but I would rather be surprised in the positive, you know, sense next year than in a negative sense.
I'm not seeing anything else that looks like it's way out of whack or way overly
I
conservative.
mean, there was talk about like the zoning and building permits because our fees are so low. They're pretty low compared to other municipalities, right?
That is correct. In general, you want your zoning and building permit fees to, pay for your zoning officer. So we could look at increasing those if you wanted to.
I think that would make sense. I think that's really the only other, spot that would be an increase.
I hear you.
No, it might take that to, it's 31 right now. What do you think realistically could go to if fees were increased?
Well, that really depends on what you want to increase the fees.
Right, I mean, I'm not gonna say, oh, let's double them, but, yeah. Or 15 cents a square foot, once you're beyond the initial $60 flat fee.
Yeah, that's definitely something we could consider, maybe conservatively, you know, bump it up to 35.
Yeah.
Without actually having that discussion and going through the numbers to determine what we would make, I would be hesitant to bolster that much further.
Yeah. But I think that could be, just since our fees are too low, and I'm not saying this to scare all of the developers that we have to raise, you know, it's not gonna be 50 cents a square foot, but 15 cents is pretty low compared to other municipalities, even a similar size, correct?
I would need to check the numbers that I ran previously, but I do believe we are one of the lowest, if not the lowest in Monroe County.
Yeah, that can't really be, especially as we're getting more and more commercial development.
Okay. So then do we wanna shift that up to 35,000 and understand that my newest task is to, look at our fee schedule for the zoning?
That's 3,500, right, for 361, 341?
320, 000, zoning building permit.
31 to 35.
Jacob, where are we gonna reflect expenses that we know we're gonna have? For instance, tearing down the house at Marshall's Creek, that's a parking expense. Building a parking lot in the road, that's a parking expense.
Oh,
Whatever we do
a lot
with
of
the
that is
bridge on
covered.
Green Mountain, that's a highway expense. Fine to say it comes out of the general fund, but it seems like we gotta reflect this somewhere.
Well, I've spoken to Brian Smith about the parking lot, and, it is his opinion we'll be able to use our LSA money for that.
Oh, great.
So that is not something we need to
But we
worry
still
about.
have to tear down the house.
We will.
And we can't really get an estimate until they get out of there, so we can tear down some of the walls and see what's in there.
That's correct. Generally speaking, I believe the average for demolishing a property is approximately 40,000 wide. So we can put that in there
Well,
somewhere.
Brian brought up the fact that there's discussions, and we don't have a little house, you know, like that.
So in that particular house,
You know, we'd have to rip up some walls and have a contractor say, what's
And we
wrong?
did have a contractor take
Or look
a
outside.
quick look at it,
Yeah.
and, that's gonna be anywhere from $70,000 to $100,000, sad to say. That includes the barn.
Reasonable, we can get a haul it all the way to
That's,
somewhere.
that's the kick, the mitigation is
Yeah.
the kick.
I know there's a DCED grant that can be pursued for that.
Yeah, that was mentioned, even before we decided to buy the property.
Right, yeah.
The demolition, remember, we talked about that? And there is a grant, I don't know that we, well, now that we're, did we close?
We are scheduled to close tomorrow.
Who's our attorney? He'll be there?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, 'cause I brought up the blight grant from the DCED
Yeah.
website.
Is it been like?
No, it's actually more designed for things that are, safety hazard, public nuisance, lack of mitigation for stuff.
Excuse me.
So if we could apply for a grant, of course, usually, I don't know, but we heard this morning, the DCNR grants can't apply retroactively to things you've already done.
Right. ED. It's a DCED grant.
I'm not sure how that works.
Well, it's not the same,
If it applies retroactively, we're okay.
We have to get this in the budget.
We will have to, the way that the grants are tracking right now, one of them is set to expire in June, the other is set to expire in December of next year. So if we want to stay on track and start construction by June of 2021, we have to have this house demolished in the next easily 4 months.
But is that, and that's non-reimbursable by the grant?
No, it won't be.
These are expenses.
What about Green Mountain Bridge?
Well, let's pick one topic and stay there before we bounce
Now,
around.
this down with them,
Okay, so,
How much
that goes?
we need to put in for cost to the township?
Brian just said that he spoke to
70,000.
somebody, and we can assume 70,000.
Well, we also have about 18,000, we have a loan for $125,000 for the house, but there's another 18,000 between fees and moving expenses and so forth that were put in from our budget. But it's for buying.
That's already,
Well,
that's
that's this year,
2019,
that's
right?
current year.
taken care of.
Right, so for next year, what will you, are we saying we gotta put another 70,000 into next year to get
Well,
that?
we've got three things actually with that house. One, we've got, a loan payment, which is about $20,000.
That's
think
been,
we got
that's been
that.
taken
That's in there.
care
We
of.
got that.
Then we've got a one-time expense this year, I think it's $18,000.
Right, but this year is taken care of.
And then we've got the, demolition expenses.
That's what we have to put into the budget.
Yeah,
So how much,
Brian's estimating 70 to 100, we don't know.
right, we have to add $70,000 in expense now, cause we're trying to bring things down, but now we're gonna add $70,000.
Well, what do we have? We have an option. We own the house, we have to insure it. It's gonna be insured as unoccupied, most likely. So there's gonna be an expense there, an increase in insurance. And then if we decide that it's necessary to knock it down in 2021, or can we work around it now that we own it?
Good question, that's up to Ryan, Smith. I would say that just for staging work, what we have to do, we probably need to knock it down so that we can get trucks in there because it has to be built. Again, I don't know. We definitely know we need to build a road as soon as possible. Whether we need to get rid of the house or not, I don't know.
So is to, continue with that project, is it expected that will take place in June July of 2021. So we need to add $70,000 demolition cost, because that is not covered by the grant.
So that's gonna add to our debt.
Yeah, right.
Good.
Well, let's get this up to $1 million, so we have to transfer.
Just a thought, and Frank, you have more information. General checking account has like 800 some thousand, and then, people's security has $1.8 million in there. What is the, those funds that?
What is the what?
Well, the one fund, we have as you know, we have a bond. We still owe, I think, $7 million on the thing. And, we've been advised by the, I guess it was the Bank of Scotland, is it? Not quite sure, but anyway, they're the ones that we work with to do the bond. Then we revised the bond twice, and each time we did it, we were fortunate to get very good interest rates because of our credit. And that credit is, when they look at it, they want to know what you've got. And Standard & Poor's, of course, as you know. And they rate you, and we maintain our rating because we're, number one, we're taxable. That's good when you get into municipal bonds and that kind of stuff. We can tax. And just importantly, we have a very sound fiscal standing. I don't know what's going on with the bond market, or what's going on, if that can change or anything else, but we wanted to be in a position where that if sewer authority pulls out, they're paying us the vast majority of that payment. For some reason that happened, we'd want to be in a position where we had funds on hand to cover that.
So how much of a reserve would you look to see for that purpose?
Probably at least $500,000.
Okay, you have $1.8 million there, and you
Right.
have $800,000 in your general checking. But the thing is that I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing that you're pulling out of these reserves that you've been able to accumulate because you're in a tough year coming up.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is that we could
I do actually have another
go
follow-up
to it at least.
question.
This could go up more
What could go up?
or transferred. What'd you
Oh,
say?
yeah, the income could be better, and, frankly, we had a roll forward of $128,000. I don't know that we have to actually utilize additional funds or not.
Which is a follow-up question. These
Yeah.
numbers are only to September 30th. Was the transfer from capital projects, that account, I believe, had about $150,000 in it that we dumped into the general fund as we were moving. So there might be another $150,000 that we consider using. It'll see a deficit and it'll look bad per se coming through, but if we have that old fund money, we can maybe use that. I don't know if that's here.
That
No,
reflected
it's not
here.
gonna be in these
Not
monies,
the 20.
because you literally, it was a balance sheet effect. You basically took it out of one cash and put it into another.
Right, yeah.
From a transfer in. So no, I don't believe it's.
Correct. So then,
But-
like, that community project won't be reflected. Any of the bank accounts that we closed down in October, those monies will not be showing as us having them.
Were they originally on the general fund, or they were in different?
They were in separate funds.
Right, they were both I know about special projects, that was at ESSA, and then,
And we had a separate fund account for that, okay, I do remember that. So, well, what I'm trying to say is you do have potentially excess cash.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I don't know that it's necessarily a bad thing, and maybe you can.
How much excess cash that's made?
That's what I'm trying to figure out, you have $1.8 million, and then you have $800,000 together, so you have $2.6 million.
But that $800,000 that fluctuates, as you know, because every week, every day, she's in there paying bills right
Yeah,
now.
and I've seen it up to 9, up to $1 million, down to
Yeah.
800,000, so.
Oh, it's been down as low as $400,000.
Well, she just wants, in the 800,000, do you have that new money added?
Okay, it was at 1 point something million at the beginning of the year, it's now 800,000.
Right.
So even if it goes to 600,000, let's just say it's $500,000, and you have 1.8 in the other, that'd be $2.3 million, right? You need a reserve of $500,000 for your bond.
Well, that's only, what I've been told. There's no science.
That's fine, you're being conservative, and that's just one, you wanna make sure you have that reserve, or even if it's $750, you still have an excess to build that $400,000 difference in our budget, that's what I'm saying.
Well, and I guess what I'm saying is, I would have hoped we could have done a better job of bringing this budget together with much less than a $480,000 transfer.
Then it's really to cut expenses, because I don't think there's anything more in the income side that's gonna change.
Just those first couple of items there, did we,
Yeah, we talked about a few items and made some minor changes, but yeah, but it's not gonna,
no,
35.
Actually, if you want really quickly, I can step in here with payroll.
Still don't have that.
Right, but looking at the numbers that we budgeted, there's only one that would have to come down more than $1,000 to match what we had discussed. So we can pretty much keep those
all right,
as they are right now.
okay, so what happened is when we're doing our payroll and, we made some, decisions today on rates of increase. That doesn't include negotiations with the union. We have our own ideas about that and see how that plays out, or the benefits they may want. But then there's been some salary increases, that are going to be, reflected they're not unsubstantial.
But within the line items that we already have
Yeah.
budgeted, there are changes upwards or downwards of about $500 for each one. The only one that's actually
Well,
significant
they were just fillers. They were there to hold the
Yeah, but
place.
Julia's saying we did pretty good at guesstimating
Yeah.
to start with.
And then the only one that would need to change would be, you guys, because you mentioned you're going to freeze your salaries for the year, that line item could go down $4,000. Everybody else's, based on what we put in for fillers and what we discussed, either goes up or down about $500. There are two that go up, but they're generally, there are two that are higher than what we discussed, but those two people are generally people that work overtime. So we can discuss them, but I think it would be viable to keep them as they are now.
Okay, and I said when we freeze our salaries, or, okay, I think it would be more of a reduction than $4,000.
Well, if you,
This is just not the pittance that's paid. The $200 I guess it is a month.
Account, 400.105, right?
I'm trying to get there. Yes. That 47,000 number, if you take and keep it at a freeze, basically right now, we're at a track for annualization of this year, 44,000. I said 43, rounding. But then if you guys are freezing that, you can drop that line item by $4,000. If that's what you want to do.
Oh. That's what I think that's.
Yeah,
that's what we
43,000
decided to do.
sounds fine.
Okay.
I hate to keep bringing this up, but when we talk about, this, cash,
One other.
possible, what about the bridge? What do we?
Well, we got two bridges, but let me go back, Julie, the other thing is that we're not gonna increase what we're paid, our hourly rate, and maybe we should consider even cutting our hours. All right, and whatever that's worth, it could be a decrease.
Well, somebody's gotta do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I have me here now.
That's right. you're gonna earn your raise.
So we still gotta get to 70,000.
Yeah, we still need to get the 70,000 in there, I'm trying to figure out what GL account it goes into, because it's not something else.
Well, feasibly speaking, that would be your park expense, so it's a little weird because we're transferring, all of our park expenditures into general fund.
Okay, so we need to up parks by 70,000?
Yeah, there's a line item in parks that is 454.800, capital improvements for Marshall Falls. I think it would make sense to put it there.
454,
800.
70? Because that'll go up to 70. And then that'll change that transfer amount to what you need. So that line item on the general fund, for now, that's the marker for moving these funds in here, is 492.040, so it'd be 51,787,850 plus 70,000.
All right, does it make any sense for insurance purposes to do a joint deed between the house property and the rest of the park, so that our liability is only park liability, the whole thing? Or does it make any difference?
Well, I was hoping that they would take it into consideration.
We're now at $434,000 in, over budget. Based on the next year's expected revenue.
So part of what the board had discussed earlier was, Ed had asked for $250,000 to do the River Road project. I think that you had discussed cutting that down, because you didn't think it needed to be the whole way.
Right.
So we might be able to explore cutting that line item, which we need to be aware is a combination of the highway fund and the general fund.
Well, I'd say we could pave a half a mile rather than 2.5 miles.
Well, and the other thing that we were going to address is actually that it was a patchwork job here, 2021 down at the Menacing.
Right. And on Buttermilk, yeah.
That was actually discussed in an email, as part of the $216,000 ask.
Yep.
As he has extra materials from 2 other jobs he's planning on doing in the area.
And one of them's gonna go to Green Mountain too, by the way. So the extra materials is something that hopefully he can work out with it.
Mm-hmm.
The situation is that the contract to go out to bid to do River Road into the Park Service, do we even want that?
We can cut that entirely for this year and understand that we're not doing any mainline paving.
That's what I'm saying. Well,
We have to,
then we can take that money,
I think we have to go as far as Fort Dix. That really needs.
You think?
Yeah.
Okay, I
But
think,
after that, you
I
know,
think Buttermilk and River Road at the Bend too.
but that's probably what, a half a mile to Fort Dupuy, and less, probably.
Well, I mean, do we have part of that already looked at in the highway fund? We have $170,000 over there, we only expended.
Well, so that was one of the items that we cut in half. There's $170,000 in the highway fund and $80,000 in the general fund, to make the $250,000 act.
So then we take the 80 out of the general fund to be able to cut expenses on the general fund side for now?
And where would that go then, into the?
It would be in your, estimations that you're gonna do less on that project.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I would be fine with that.
But we're gonna, now the line item above it for the maintenance items, $158,000 in maintenance.
I'm
Now,
sorry.
that is higher than in the past.
And what line item are you on? I'm sorry, Holly.
438.245.
Is that in the general fund?
Yes.
Okay.
438.245 Township Road Maintenance. We made that $168,000 now because you're moving it over from the highway fund, but that is still higher than what it's been in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know what was in that maintenance. Ed request $260,740, to put 50 in
Right.
the highway. So the remainder is over here. Is that something on the maintenance side that can be reduced?
that's a good question. I would suggest that we abandon paving, totally paving the River Road into the, National Park Service. And, especially since, the vast majority, even though it's almost in Smithfield Township, it's not, there's no homes, there's nothing, there's no reason that we should be putting money into that other than to serve the people that use the, River Road as a bypass to go to work.
What type of savings would that generate if we took that part out?
Well, we figured that, it's gonna be 250,000
is what we budgeted entirely. So we've just removed the 80,000 from the general fund. It would be another 170 that could be removed from
Liquid fuels for that one project?
Okay, so
I don't
that's
think we even need
the
that.
line above it, which
Right.
was the maintenance item.
I would say we need about 60.
I missed your
Go
question,
to Fort
the
Dupont,
original maintenance,
quarter
I
of a mile.
apologize.
Somewhere
that's
between
okay.
a quarter to half a mile.
On the highway fund, it says that Ed asked for $216,740 for road maintenance. That's still much higher than what we've had in the past. And we moved that over, and it became $168,000 for the general fund. Is that something, is there some of those maintenance items that cannot be deferred?
Well, when we say maintenance, it's the upkeep of the roads that are existent that aren't gonna be, commercially paved. In other words, we're not gonna hire somebody to do them.
Yeah, I
It
don't
should
know
be
why you
in-house.
came up with the $216,000.
It was a wish list.
So do we reduce that?
Now, let's go back to, the monies that we're gonna apply. It's gonna deplete our Pliget allocation totally. And we still have to do that paving that he wanted done on the River Road. And, I think the three of us don't feel that that's, number one, necessary or so
Yeah, we
much
took that,
beneficial.
we took that out. So that 80,000's been taken out of the general fund.
The 80,000.
Right, but I think, Brian, you're saying take out the 170 out of liquid fuels also. Is that what I'm hearing?
I'm thinking, yeah, and then apply it to all the other works we wanna do.
Then that leaves a surplus in the liquid fuel, so it's gonna be opposite. You can't take money from there and put it into the general fund.
No,
We can't,
No.
but what we can do is we shifted, in the highway, in the liquid fuels fund, for 438.001, we put in $50,000 of the $216,000 ask. So if we take out that 170, we can put back in other road maintenance costs to take it out of the general fund.
and then anything that we do.
I got that.
Now we have Pliget intact, and, those funds, can be applied also to road work.
So are you gonna do nothing in the road work area?
No, we're going to,
The road maintenance line item, 438.001, is our township crew going out and paving township, spot patching and whatnot. The larger $250,000 project would have been something that the township would bid out to a larger contractor. So we're going to remove our mainline paving in favor of allowing our guys to do as much paving as they can in the next year.
Okay.
and even
So on
more.
liquid fuels, now we're gonna take that 170,000 out, and we're gonna take the 80 out as well, so the 250 is eliminated?
Although, let's just talk about River Road again, I think we have to keep enough in there for, let's say, half mile or less. We're doing, that would be a contractor, because that's probably 3 coats. It's not the kind of thing that our road crew can do easily. With a coat on a, small street, they're fine. But, that may, I mean, I can't speak for Ed, but I would think that it might take a contractor.
What is the total distance you're thinking about? The total distance?
Total distance was, I'm gonna guess
Less
now.
than half a mile.
No, I mean the
No,
total distance
but
original.
initially, it was gonna run from Hollow Road to the Park Service.
How long is that?
It's, close to 2 miles, if not
I think it's
Okay.
even
So if
more.
it's, let's say
Maybe
2.5 miles, 250,000,
2.5 miles,
you know,
yeah.
like,
I would say 60,000 for the small level we wanna do.
Yeah,
so then that would be 50 for a half mile.
Call it 60.
Call it 60.
Yeah.
So then we leave 60 in the liquid fuels,
For that
439.001. Okay, 60 in there. And general fund.
So then if we did that, Ed would get approximately $160,000 for the maintenance request that he asked for, 216.
And,
Keeping in mind that that is a high number.
and that's right. The other thing is, when he gave us his request sheet, what was it other than the contracted paving?
Stand by. I believe I have it.
I think it comes to 165,15,62. 160,515,62. Okay. So then we take those two numbers completely out of the general fund, and that saves us, 248,000. And it brings our deferred, down here,
Brian, while they're figuring it out, to answer your question, is asked for, paving on 164. 15 different roads.
15.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
So our difference is 186 now, so that would be our transfer. We had 128,000 in last year for our surplus.
Yeah.
Be 186 and change. Cha-ching!
I think that's.
I'm sorry, but what was it?
It's okay.
17 projects.
15 different roads that he wants to pave for a total of the 216 number. When Ed put this together, he did warn me that he overestimates the amount of money blacktop is going to cost as a way to give himself a buffer. I think he said he added $4 or $5 a ton for it. So if we're looking at, I don't have this number in front of me, but probably about 2,000, 3,000 tons of blacktop that might be able to help make up the difference that we've dropped.
Yeah. Well, and again, the priorities that are going to be involved with that, even for that figure, the 200 and some thousand for 15 projects, there's a possibility we could play with those numbers too.
And the other thing to consider, giving Ed most of the leeway to do all of the projects he wants to do, will be a good service to our residents, who have to drive on these township roads more often than not.
That's right, as opposed to the Park Service.
Exactly.
As a Pennsylvania resident, I think anything we can do for the roads.
Yeah.
I travel up and down the East Coast, and I can always tell when I'm in Pennsylvania.
When you hit PA.
Yeah, it's horrible.
This is Monroe County.
No, it's just, the entire state is horrible.
Yeah, well, let's go to the bridges. Speaking of the gosh darn entire state and our fathers-to-be in Harrisburg, don't think that we should have any monies whatsoever. We get, as you know, our liquid fuels tax is pathetic. It's going to be more pathetic. And out of it, they're taking funds out of that, the supplemental pays, the state police, and it's just each and every municipality in the state is just it's just being decreased, and we're seeing that lately. Last year was an $8,000 decrease. But having said that, bridges, a situation, and Lynn will tell you more than anyone. Ka-ching. I say the hell no. The thing is so important. People live in these communities, and they've got to have access to emergency services, fuel oil deliveries, whatever it might be. And we're in a situation now with a deteriorating bridge. It is inspected twice a year at a cost of about $2,500 to us, to be told that you got to do certain things, and we're going to reduce the weight limit on it anyway.
The weight limit's now, what's it, 5,000 or something?
I think it's maybe if you want a bike.
No, I think it's listed, I think down there, it's either 75 or 5.
Well, you were there, yeah. And this is simple. This is the simple way of they're telling you, this is it. gonna make you do this.
So how much you want?
What's the bottom line?
Yeah, just what do we got for it?
I can't say. I can say, but I don't want to. $250,000 to do it to the standards to bring it up to fully restored. And it's an arch bridge. We talked about this with several people, including Ed and other township supervisors who had similar problems. And I just, 250 has to be, we can tinker with it and maybe get another 5,000 pounds. But that ain't, one fire truck, one oil truck.
Here's a thought, Brian, just from looking at it. The only emergency exit is if you go over the bridge to the right, if you could go through that fence there, and it's not very far, you make the driveway that comes into whatever that development is there, the office building, the emergency exits, right? What if we did this? What if we looked at that as far as, buying it or, taking it over and making that driveway into a road that we owned, that was the main entrance, and using the bridge as like a, bicycles, pedestrians, maybe if local people wanted to go over it, well, we don't know, but it's sort of a nice scenic thing to do, but make the other thing a real entrance to the place and own that road. We got the road cut.
We've done it. It's, the road's there. It's cut. It's gotta be
Yeah, but, we'd have to redo that, but it could be a township road.
But as you know, they're not only reluctant, they are determined not to grant us an easement whatsoever.
Well, but that's an easement. If we were gonna say, no, okay, we'll buy it, it's township road, we'll maintain it, we'll figure out so you don't.
We're never we'll have to condemn it.
Well, maybe, yeah, okay.
Eminent domain is.
Right, eminent domain. Obviously, because it has to be an emergency entrance, we could do that anyway, but I think that should be the real main entrance, and the bridge should be, a cute little entrance.
And keep it as a standard, so you can drive your car in there and no problem. And that's no problem. What happens is we just circumvent and go around the bridge, the existing bridge.
No, we don't have to close it, but just placard it for, bicycles
the weight limit is,
whatever,
Well, it'll be, it's, right now it'll take cars,
How much would the eminent domain cost you?
How much would what?
Doing eminent domain.
Holly, it's time. It's the time more than anything else, but, as you know, we'd have to have a fair market value, and that's gotta be, determined by appraisers.
And you gotta pay somebody.
And they're gonna just probably go as far as they can before we get it done. But the other end of that is, we still have access to this community. And, it's gonna take time no matter what, any way we go. And if we start to repair the bridge, we're gonna be not in trouble so much, but we're gonna be very careful how to shut it down for a period of time. So, eminent domain.
The possibility, if we're talking about this, of taking this over and making it a road, maybe that's much more attractive to the people that own this property. They wouldn't have to pay taxes, they have it plowed, another plus, let's say, just getting into their development.
Sure.
Yeah, would it cost less than $250,000?
That's an excellent question, and I don't have an answer for that.
So for now, is it something that you need to do in 2021?
Well, here's the situation again. PennDOT hires engineering firms, to, advise them. They say they're out there twice a year. It's literally every time they come, they're asking for more and more reductions in the weight limits. And, it's going to get to the point where we're gonna have to post it, no trucks, no whatever. That's not a good.
So it's basically a crystal ball as to whether that's gonna happen in 2021 or not.
Well, we've already had our solicitor send them and I thought it was a well-written letter saying that we really need it. Please be a good community neighbor. These people need not to be put in jeopardy because they can't get an ambulance in there or a fire truck. Would you please consider working with us? Temporary, as we then we would have the opportunity to gradually take that bridge up to standard, but not all at once.
Who is it? Who owns it?
DLP Inc. And they're a royalty firm based out of Allentown, Pennsylvania. And they have a manager, a site manager over here who really doesn't have the authority to say too much.
Why don't we go down to team in Allentown?
We've already
Make
doing
a
it.
deal.
We're doing it. Ron's in the process of telling them.
So to keep ourselves on the budget idea, do we wanna budget for the bridge? Do we maybe shift a budget line item into, actually, I think that one says highway and bridge maintenance. Perhaps we take a guess on what the bridge will cost us versus what eminent domain will cost us, a viable number in there, and then.
Not viable, that's a tough word.
It is difficult, but I don't know if a budget, workshop is the time to discuss how we're going to move forward on this, because we need to figure out a number. And we can postulate as much as we want to here, but until we get those bills from Ron,
Why don't we do this? Can we just, temporarily, we can talk to John Tressel and say, hey, we're gonna do this. What do you think the cost would be actually doing it? So we know that piece of it. And,
You mean doing the
when do you wanna
bypass?
have this
Yeah.
budget wrapped up?
We'd do that ourselves.
yeah, but it's still a cost, right? We
Well,
gotta bring that road
if you're
up.
talking salaries and stuff.
well, feasibly speaking, we have to have our budget passed by the end of the year, it needs 20 days to sit. So absolute worst case scenario, we have to have our last budget meeting, say, before Thanksgiving.
It's 20 days before the, right.
Right.
And it's the end of December.
So can you nail that number down in the next 2 weeks?
Well, we'll start as soon as we're all done here. I'll
Yeah,
Okay.
otherwise, we're just gonna have to put some number in there.
Because whatever you look at this point in time, if it's $2 or $250,000, it's going to just go back up to what that surplus number is. Because there's nothing else that we're really gonna change at this.
nowhere else to go.
And it doesn't look like it from what we're talking
You're gonna
about.
have to pull from reserve.
And that's why I say, I don't think it's terribly unrealistic, because
It's
you do
probably
have at least
doable.
$3.3 million in reserves. It's not like you're gonna have to go out and go to bonds.
Holly, that's, I understand what you're saying, but, we're in unknown times, okay? And, I think that what we've got to do is tighten our bootstraps, literally. And not say, hey, we got, like you're saying, we got $3 million, why don't you spend it? That's pretty much what I'm hearing.
Well,
And I'm
all
saying to you,
is that, you know,
I'm saying to you, though, that we've got a fiscal responsibility of our own to see what's going on and.
You don't have to spend
No.
it within the budget,
No, we gotta balance the budget.
but we gotta put the budget in, and you can still be tight next year, you can come in under budget, which would be good. But we have to
Well-
have budget.
and the thing is, we haven't really had to use the surplus yet. We, as far as I can see, I don't think we've had to draw from it. So,
From-
we're being conservative, and if you wanna get that 400,000 or whatever that number's gonna be down, cause right now it's 180,000, but when we add the bridge on it, it's gonna be back up, you know, 3 to 4. So, either we take it as a surplus out of those funds
Okay.
that are existing, or we decrease other expenses in the budget.
And do you see any other places we can decrease that would matter?
Well, we can, if we need
Substantial.
to have another, because we need to go out and talk to potential eminent domain costs, we're going to have another budget meeting. So maybe we schedule another one for Wednesday, November 18th at 10 o'clock, with the understanding that we will go talk about eminent domain costs, see what we can get back, and then make the commitment to individually look through the budget and consider where else we can cut expenses.
Well, yeah, and,
Yeah,
I
I think one and a half.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to, do it by phone if necessary, will not be.
well, it doesn't have to be the 18th,
Yeah, we could,
and it doesn't have to be
Anytime
Wednesday.
after the 11th. But it doesn't sound like there's a whole lot that needs to be ironed out. So I
Yeah.
think the key, I'm not saying it's gonna be crucial for me to be part of that. I think in the background, if we have the numbers, I can make sure that
Just a
the
couple of.
Well,
balance.
let me say that,
Let's pick a date.
let's plug in the 200,000 for the bridge.
$200,000?
Yeah, 200,000.
And
let's still have a final
Alright, so
go
let's
through.
put it in, let's see what it all
Yeah,
looks like.
let it all kick out, we'll see what we have to transfer, where we're,
Right. I'm hoping
But I
between now
think
and then, we can
I think-
contact these people.
and Robert, I think what all three of us have to do is sit down ourselves and take a look at these line items, and if you feel it could be cut or income increased a little bit, or, you know, just the guesstimate part about it, the being somewhat real about it.
Somebody give me a date here, is it gonna be the 18th? It's not gonna be 18th?
Robert, I'm gonna pause you for a moment, so then Holly, just to be clear with us, we're looking at 200,000 and 439.245.
And then what that would do, the way it looks right now is then 395,020 would be 387,527. What we can do is, we can iron those numbers out, make sure everything's in the right spot, get them back to you so that in that timeframe, that's when you see that number's gonna change, make that adjustment, and then you'll have the final numbers.
So if we're saying it doesn't have to be the 18th, Holly, but we'd really appreciate your, both of you to be here. So,
Take a
let's look at the
I will
calendar,
not physically be here.
Okay.
period.
After the 11th, I will not be here.
Wow, okay.
Sharon,
So,
it's only-
yeah, Sharon's here,
Sharon, let Sharon, I'll be here.
and you can have them.
Okay, let's say the
We'll be
18th,
fine.
10 o'clock.
Just a couple more numbers.
Yeah, tentatively, right?
So, one moment, please. Sharon, we're saying the 18th at 10 a.m.?
And I
That's
can be
right.
on speakerphone, I don't mind, I can just virtually be here.
And you would have, sure, you would have everything in front of you, because you're doing it.
But actually, what
Guys are
ideally
getting that in
be
the
is if we have some insight on those numbers in the interim, just to make sure we can get them in, so.
What numbers?
The
So that way we
bridge,
can-
I think, is the only thing really.
It's Ron?
Well, we're gonna put 200,000.
We did put it in.
Yep.
But I'm saying if there's gonna be, in the next 2 weeks, you're gonna have discussions,
Right.
and if you find out a conclusion on that, please let us know.
Oh, yeah.
We can get the good number in.
And Ron has contacted these people in Allentown already?
Oh, yeah.
So he knows who to contact.
And he pretty much said that we'd like to do this in the spirit of, you know, being a good neighbor. However, eminent domain is certainly something we will consider.
Okay, then if you're just doing a little paving, it won't be too bad.
Well, but as you said, in Smithfield Township, our roads, I personally feel that they're a lot better than Strasburg Borough or Strasburg. But, and then there's one other option that we can talk about. We can partner with Middle Smithfield Township. They're certified to do, professional paving. They have the equipment to do it, and it would be 1/3 the cost.
We've got our paving machine, which is,
Oh, that's
Yeah.
right, our guys.
You didn't end up getting your first
I call it the Midnight Paving Company, the two of them.
Well, with that,
So we're okay on the?
yeah, we're gonna say, can I make a motion to adjourn at 2:40 then?
Second. All in favor?
Done.
Aye.
I gotta go pick up my child.